Well, hey everybody, this is Don, and I am with Pauli Kidd down below. And tonight
Hi.
we are going live with our backer kit for Stars and Sales. Pauli, how the hell are you doing?
Good. Sizzling in the hot weather, whereas you're freezing in the cold. So yeah. But
Ne-
if we touch, we negate. But oh well.
Negative 24 degrees here, and you are what Fahrenheit there?
117. So
107. So between us, we have almost 150 degrees difference in temperature.
yep.
Pauli, you're sizzling hot, girl.
Yes, I am. You know, someone has to be.
Yeah, true. I have to settle. I'll be the ugly duckling here. I'm fine with that. All right. We have a backer kit that is going live tonight. It is scheduled to go live. The link is down below in the banner scroll. We had to do a little bit of adjustment to some information with backer kit at the last minute, which was basically that we wanted me to add our social media channels to it. So it should be live. If not, it'll be live any momentarily. But according to backer kit, it is showing live right now. So good deal. We're going to talk tonight about stars and sales. We're going to talk a little bit about where you got the idea from. We're going to talk about the theme, which is really cool. We're going to show a lot of cool imagery of the project to everybody here tonight on video. And you know what, Pauli, let's start this
Cool.
off. Stars and sales. Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
So I mean, I've been designing role playing games since the '80s because I'm old. But I
Real
like.
quick, Pauli, I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell people a little bit about some of the stuff like Shadowrun? You're the one who
Yeah.
created that game and designed it. Talk about what your experience is first a little bit on this.
Okay. So, to go all the way back, so I was one of the original D&D players back in '75 because I was a little happy wargamer. So I corresponded to all of the creators of those games, and they wrote back. So I sort of ended up it was lifelong correspondence with Gygax and Arneson and people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be a game designer, so that's kind of what I trained myself to be. Um, and so the first role playing game that I did kind of designing while I was still in university was the Albedo role playing game, which was a science fiction game. It was also it was actually technically the second role playing game ever done in Australia because someone did a little one which is mostly sold at conventions. But leapfrogging on from Albedo, I did the Lace and Steel role playing
Yes.
game, which is pretty famous because it was very innovative. And it was a swashbuckling romance game. So
Mm-hmm.
rapiers and flashing blades, and this will be a ongoing theme in my life and creations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a swashbuckler fan, and so that was very English Civil War, Three Musketeers, your
Yeah.
rapiers and fair damsels. But there were systems in that for doing repartee as well as fencing, and
Yeah.
but I was also at the same time one of the world's first computer game designers.
Yes.
So I started off with the Lord of the Rings text games. Actually, I did a lot of freelance stuff before that, but so the parser games, the text games, I did the Lord
Yep.
of the Rings ones. And then as home entertainment platforms like the Nintendo appeared, I did the first ever Nintendo game done outside of Japan. We actually had to bust the machine open and reverse engineer it because
Mhm.
Nintendo wouldn't tell us how it worked. So the
Which
first
was what game?
that was actually Airwolf for that one.
Gotcha.
Um, and
Airwolf
then,
was the first one.
yep, and
See,
the
I just
theme
learned
song
something new.
haunts me till this day.
Yeah.
La, 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 la. Oh boy, Nintendo actually had no sense of humor, and so we had sent them part of the game where someone gets shot and they fall down and blood went under them, and they
That
wrote
was a
back.
no-no back then.
Yeah, and they said, "Look, we can't have that. We'd like you to change the color to green for the blood, please,
Mm-hmm.
because that won't look so bad." So now someone fell on their face and green went bleh. It looked worse. But we also had there was we digitized a photo of the girlfriend from the thing who had a cleavage a bit like this, and it was like, oh, rescue me,
Hmm.
Airwolf. And they said, oh, and similarly, we want a change done to this woman. So I painted
Gotcha.
her green and sent them to them, and they came back. Do not understand palette change in your last
So you did
submission.
that one, and then you went
Yeah,
on to.
amongst many other things like the Star Wars SNES game and things
Mhm.
like that, um, I did a game called Nightshade, which you'll find a lot of shrine
Yep.
sites for.
Yeah.
And it's like a comedy gumshoe,
Yeah.
um, a bit like the old 30s serials.
Mhm.
And that was a damn popular one. And then I was sort of not just the designer, but the producer entirely on that one. And then I did the same role for the Shadowrun SNES game.
Yes.
And
Real quick, for people who don't know SNES, Super NES, right?
yeah,
Well,
Super Nintendo Entertainment
yes.
System. Um, so that was, we had a nice team on that. We were all role playing gamers,
Hmm.
so I think we had good fun doing it. But it shows the game is still really, that game is still popular today.
Well,
Uh,
Shadowrun was one of the most popular games ever produced for the Super NES.
yeah, and so again, you'll find it on shrine sites and everything online. It
Hmm.
is downloadable, and uh, yeah, it was a good team. It was a great game. I really enjoyed it. It's also got me fired because they really didn't like me very much because they just didn't. I was one of the old school. I'd been sort of there from the beginning of computer games, and these guys were starting to do things like try and force people into bad work contracts. So
Yeah, just the way this says that's probably just
they
goes with
they
the
wrecked
flow back
they
then.
wrecked a company from within, and so that was pretty much the swan song of that company. It was the greatest game
Hmm.
they ever did, and it was also the one where at the end of it all the talent walked. So
Now you also worked with TSR and Wizards of the Coast, and you did work like, if I understand right, you did White Plume Mountain, the book,
yeah, yeah,
and Descent in Depths of the Earth, was it?
yep. So
Yeah.
so what had happened was my first published novel was a thing called Muss of Curbridge, and that was published by TSR when TSR had a novel publishing branch,
Hmm.
and they were absolutely invaluable as a publisher for starting authors. But Muss was a real hit. Janelle Jaquays did the cover,
Yep.
and that was apparently the favorite painting she did over her life. I'm told she actually kept that one. But so I had a relationship with TSR. They really liked me, and actually I liked them. But I was actually living over in the UK because I was very long-term friends with the author Terry Pratchett.
Hmm.
Um, we'd met sort of in the 80s, sheltering from Americans while we were at conventions in the USA. We're the only Commonwealthy people, so therefore we were the only ones that understood each other's puns.
Real quick, Paulie, I just want to answer this question. Jason96 asks, "What is this?" Jason, we are talking about Pauli Kidd's history, and this tonight is the go live of Pauli and Wizard Tower Games' backer kit for Stars and Sails, the new RPG, which we're going to be getting into in depth here in a little bit. We're going to talk about it, show pictures, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what's going on right now. Paulie, sorry
Cool.
for interrupting you. I just had a question to answer.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, so I was over in the UK working on the Terry Pratchett's computer game for Discworld,
Yeah.
and that's when TSR contacted me and my editor Rob King, who's a lovely chap. Um, he knew that I absolutely dislike Forgotten Realms. I think it is ridiculously over the top. I really don't like it. But he asked me if I would do a comedy Forgotten Realms novel for him.
Hmm.
And so that is the Council of Blades. So they asked me to basically invent a whole chunk of Forgotten Realms. It was just a blank map area. So
Really?
could you draw that up for us? So I did. And so I decided it was going to be like little tiny Italian warring states. It's the blade,
Hmm.
the sword coast, and they're all sort of swordy themed places. And they're so that was the first kind of D&D novel I did. And it's interesting 'cause to a lot of the purists, how dare anyone do a comedic adventure? But it was actually incredibly popular. So when they had the buyover of Wizards of the Coast and they were going to launch third edition D&D, um,
Hmm.
they wanted novels to launch off this amazing new renaissance of D&D.
Yeah.
So they basically looked at the books and said, who did we have that did a popular novel sort of amongst the gamers, one that they loved and respected, and that was me. So they contacted me and said, we want you to do a trilogy of books to kick off the relaunch of D&D. um, it was going to be based on classic old modules
Hmm.
from Dungeons and Dragons.
I.e.,
And
White Plume Mountain and Descent in Depths of the Earth. Descent in Depths
yep,
of the Earth had to be one of my favorite adventure modules, just to let you know.
yep.
And I'm not BSing you, that was one of my top ones.
And then Queen of the Demon Web Pits was the one after that.
Yep.
And so the idea was to do novels that were really, by a gamer for gamers. And the thing I was talking about is that these can be great adventures, but they also have to be funny, because when you listen to players talk about, swap their anecdotes, it's never about the time that they were,
Hmm.
amazingly cool. It's usually about the time they screwed up.
Polly, St. Cuthbert has a question for you. He asked, "Did you write White Plume Mountain? Did you write White Plume Mountain and Descent in the Depths of the Earth books novels?"
I certainly did. I did White Plume Mountain, Descent into the Depths of the Earth, and Queen of the Demon Web Pits. That's the trilogy there. I've often been asked if there's going to be more. That's not for me to say. Wizards basically closed down all their book publishing,
Yeah.
and that's that. I can't launch out and do that myself. It's their IP. I'd love to do it though.
Yeah.
But they
So
were they were
basically,
they were fun books, and so that's kind of. Oh, I actually went on. I did a novel for them for Gamma World as well.
mhm,
Red Cells and the Fallout. But
yep.
now they are just not publishing books anymore, which is a damn shame, because they were good to do.
Mhm.
Yes, flesh to stone and stone to mud, which kind of lets you know how we used to play D&D. Were horrifying. Um,
Oh, the classic way. That's how I played anyway. So you have a really rich lineage in adventure gaming, role playing games, novel writing, game design. So I think that you would be pretty well classified as someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to gaming and creating
yeah,
things.
yeah. It's
Um,
actually been my profession for 41 years full time. I
yeah.
might be one of them. I'm probably one of the most experienced role playing game designers in the world. I've written a lot for a lot of different systems.
Hmm. Now, stars and sales. Um, Again, the link is down below for anybody who wants to go to our backer kit, check it out and support it. We're going to get a little bit into that tonight about the pledge levels, what you're going to get, type of stuff. But so, stars and sales, role playing game. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, whoops, just trying to drop things. So Stars and Sails, again, it was coming back to that whole swashbuckler love. Um, I've had a sort of obsession for many years about flying ships and so on, and
Hmm.
and it had tried in D&D days to try and do a few um, campaigns that used that more or less successfully, but somewhere in the middle of this obsession long ago, out came the Disney movie of Treasure Planet,
Treasure
and
Planet.
they did a wonderfully ridiculous science fiction setting that had tall wooden ships in outer space, tricorns and ray guns, and
Hmm.
it was actually it's one of the great unsung gems of Disney. It is the best telling of the Treasure Island story. It's quite a touching story between Jim and Long John Silver, but it was just a spectacularly good film.
Hmm.
And so that kind of hung around in my head as something that I would love to see done as a role playing game. So I actually hunkered down and did it. So I could get my flying ships, I could get my swashbuckling, and have this science fiction slash science fantasy setting
Hmm.
where never mind the science too much. The story logic is in the game and it tells you how this works. But let's not worry too much about splitting atomic hairs.
Hmm.
Here's the setting, and here's how it makes adventure. And so I was always a huge fan of Traveller and science fiction role playing games. And friends and I became real connoisseurs of things like um, star system generation tables and so on to
Hmm.
make star systems if you're exploring and these sorts of things. So one of the things I really wanted to do in this was to make sure that it wasn't just bombing around you doing missions and what have you, but you could explore. This could be the great age of exploration in space.
Hmm.
So the tools were there so that you could actually make new territories for the players. And whereas most science fiction games, these things are bone dry. It's like, I'll tell you, you have an M class star and it's got 9 orbits, and no, this one actually gives you the adventure that the place will give
Hmm.
you. It generates a star system, but it tells you what there is to do. How these areas may or may not be interesting or dangerous. These areas here, this is what they're like, but this is the sort of area that pirates might easily use to hide in. This is the sort of areas where ancient artifacts
Yeah.
are found, and there are generators there for making indigenous life forms and indigenous intelligent life, which can give you all sorts of problems. Doesn't have to be something that wants to eat your face, but if you land on an area with a bunch of really cheerful natives that want to help you explore the ruins, but they have no sense of personal boundaries and no sense of personal property, you know,
Well, my
you could
question is
be in.
this: is you mentioned in the game you talk about something called the Ethereum. What is the Ethereum?
So the Ethereum is essentially is very much like the ether in, say, 1889. It is a unseen undercurrent just below
Hmm.
our normal level of reality. And this is what powers the vessels. The
Okay.
sails and so on the vessels actually essentially catch the winds of the Ethereum, and they are straining power out of that to go into the ship's drives, which
Gotcha.
means there is a texture to space. So again, instead of just a dry space map with you can go here and here and here, there are currents and tides in this
Hmm.
space environment. There are maelstroms and whirlpools to avoid. There are trade winds which ebb and flow back and forth, meaning that trade tends to move in certain ways at certain times. So it's a way more living, breathing world than most science fiction role playing games give you. And there's a neat little conceit in there because I quite like the way in Treasure Planet the ships are open decks and they're sailing through space. So the idea is that when your drive comes on, yes, there's essentially a bubble around the ship that preserves whatever atmosphere and so forth you've got. However, within that area, the Ethereum effect essentially screws up things over sort of distances. The net effect is that if you do something like fire a gun within that area, the bullets and rays and so on tend to wander off target very, very quickly. Meaning that if you're fighting on board a ship, you're probably better off drawing cutlasses than drawing a
Yeah,
revolver.
but that's the whole point of the. That sounds like what's so fun about the game is unlike a lot of traditional fantasy role playing games or sci-fi, this kind of splits the hairs down the middle with them because, like you said, you can have for lack of a better word, you can have a Spanish style galleon as a ship. You can, because in this game you can make your own ships. You give instructions on how to create your own ships, and ships can do combat with each other. Correct?
Yes, so obviously ships are a major part of it. So there are rules for making and purchasing ships, crewing them, um, having them fight, obviously, but also one of the things a lot of kind of nautical swashbuckling things don't have is any kind of economics for the ships. So there's trading rules and so on for cargoes and so on, but also
Yeah.
let's just say, for instance, that the players, for some reason, want to go into piracy, which you shouldn't, but whatever. Um, what is it? What are you getting? How are you selling it? Where are you selling it? You don't seize a ship and find its holders full of gold. You don't. Uh, 18th century, you seize a ship and find the hold is full of sugar. That's like so.
But
Yeah,
that's
that,
the
and that,
but the but that's the whimsical part about it. I mean, players have the flexibility, just like any other role playing game, won't they, to be able to, if they want to go ahead and, as a GM, have a ship full of gold, they can do it, or they can have a ship full of sugar, right?
yeah, for the treasure ships, you're going to have to find where those are coming from. So, like a
Hmm.
Spanish galleon is full of silver because it's coming from Mexico to Spain. So it's
Hmm.
like, but those are obviously protected by the kind of firepower that you'd use to protect silver that's going to buoy up your economy for the next year. So, how tough do you feel? But one of the things that I put in this was making the game yours. So, here's
Yeah.
this general background, but there are different types of swashbuckling campaign you can do. So, the thing actually leads off with different ways of doing this. And
Hmm.
so, for instance, one of the type of campaigns you could run would be a Starhawks campaign based on something like the old Errol Flynn movie, The Seahawks, which is Drake and so forth. You might remember dear old
Very,
England.
very, very
that-
dramatic, very over the top.
And the evil Spanish Empire is completely upfront about its plans for world domination. The only hope is plucky old England and Queen Elizabeth, but they don't have the money to raise a fleet. The Spanish Armada is going to build and it's going to come. So it's up to
But
these privateers to somehow fight
yeah,
the evil empire, seize those galleons, get the
but
money to build the fleet. So that is a type of campaign that you can do.
yeah, but you're not. But in the game, there are other races and such. I mean, species
Yeah,
you call them in the game. So, it's not about, if I understand this right, it's not about more classic history of, like, the Spanish versus the English and so on. You actually have the flexibility to have many different species to be able to play with. There's room in there to go ahead and make them very unique and such, like with the artwork here,
yeah,
which is by Hanji Sloan.
yeah. Um, so, um, so as far as species goes, one of the things I liked in Treasure Planet, which is a major inspiration for this, was that everyone's different. There was just countless species. So they had a ship
Yes.
in it where no two people are the same.
Yeah.
Um, there are kind of squid-like creatures, and there's cyborg creatures, and there's insecty ones, and there's crustacean ones, and there's felines, and there's canines. So in the game, I've
Hmm.
literally said there are so many different interstellar races, and there isn't a planet of any one species. There are obviously there's little sub communities of them within different areas, but it's not like you've got planet of the humans and
Well,
planet of the felines.
there's currently in the game, there's 13 available species, unique species you can play.
Uh,
Correct?
well, no, actually, there's different nations, but what you can do is make your own species. All you
Yes.
do is you pick when you design a character, you create characteristics which are done in an old school kind of band, the 3 to 18 characteristic band, but
Yes.
then you will choose essentially traits for your character, and those traits can be just things from its background and experience, like you might have been very thievish or whatever you like, but they can also be species related. I want to be a species that can breathe underwater. I want to
Hmm.
be a species that's got an armored skin. I want to be something like a cat that is incredibly agile. So these are the traits that you choose, and you essentially make your species from your vision of what you want to be. So you're
And
not tied to a list of things that you have to be.
exactly. And another aspect about this game, is that's pretty unique, is the fact that theoretically, I mean, there's not really classes in this game per se,
No, no,
because you're
it's
going off of those quirks and those unique character traits. Correct?
yeah, it's a skill-based game.
Yes.
So no, there are no levels, there are no classes. Um, your As you generate your character, once you've done traits, you will pick skills,
Hmm.
and there are some specialty skills that you will need certain characteristic bands to do. You can have psychics, but they have to have like a high wisdom.
Yeah.
You have got crazy ass scientists, but they have to be intelligent.
Hmm.
Um, but and they do have sort of access to considerable lists of inventions that they can make, of mental powers they can have. But these are also skills that they have to have, and you buy skills for your character. Are you a navigator? Can you guide ships? Fencing, firearms, biology, all those sorts of things. Is a considerable list of skills and personality traits to help you build out a persona of the character as well. Um,
Yes.
and
And
as you gain experience, you can raise your skills or get new skills. And
mhm.
there's no magical cap to this. Your life goes on. You don't mysteriously plateau out and never learn anything again. Um,
Yeah, because
so
that's the whole thing that I thought was really cool about the game, was the fact that when you get into role playing games, what do you classically think of? You think of, well, what race am I going to be or species? What is my class going to be? So races and classes are a major part of it. And with this game, you kind of turn people on their own heads because you're like, you're going to choose your species, but you're taking that the class ability and you're replacing it with skills is what you're doing, and
yeah,
also abilities and quirks and odd things. And kind of what ties all this together, of all things, is the artwork, because the artwork has a very distinct flavor to it.
yeah. I was again drawing a lot of inspiration there from Treasure Planet. There was
Awesome.
a character in oddly enough, well, not oddly enough, furry fandom, who had the art style from Treasure Planet down rather beautifully. So it's Hange Sloan, and she also goes online as Jabberwocky Chamber of all things. But
Hmm.
she did a lot of the initial artwork for this, and it did have that Disney cartoon feel to
Yeah.
it.
In
She
fact,
captured it
let me
really,
do
really
this.
well. She's also a brilliant cosplayer. For those of you who've ever seen Treasure Planet, there's this fantastic character in it that is the feline captain of the main ship, who I think she's voiced by Helena Bonham Carter. So she has this wonderful
She
Oxford
is.
accent.
Yes.
And beautiful lines like she's got everyone in the cabin giving them a bit of a chat and whatever. She's got her first officer there, and
Hmm.
it's like now about this crew you lot have hired. What was it I said about them this morning? Number one over coffee says,
Hmm.
what do they call them? Says a pointless team of necklace galoots, mom. Says that was it, pure gold. Anyway, about these people you've hired. So
Yeah.
yeah, she was just delicious. Hange did a cosplay of that character, and it was stunning. She had
Hmm.
exactly the build, and it was like just I've never seen
Yeah.
anyone
Because
bring a character to life like that.
because this right here is some of the anticipated. Well, it's not anticipated. It's going to be some of the artwork, some of the black and white artwork, that's going to be in the book. Again, very, very has a nice distinct flavor to it. And we can talk, if you want, a little bit about, now this image is in black and white. And as we scroll down, we can show a couple different other ones. This is another image of it. And then this is kind of like the digital color crossover. Now, there are going to be, there's two ways that people can go ahead and get this product. When they go into BackerKit, they can back it on two different levels. They can back it on a hardcover or softcover level. And if they go with softcover, that's going to be a perfect gown. It's going to be a black and white interior. Or they can go deluxe and they can get a full color hardcover version that's on deluxe paper. We use an image intensified high intensity inks, and that's going to be full color. So they can go the black and white level, soft cover, or they can go full color, high end paper, high end color inside, which would be case bound hardcover. Correct?
Yep, that's how we're
Okay.
going to do it.
Yep.
So
So
So we're not kind of confuse people with 500 different variants of the
yes,
books,
very simple.
um, deluxe or not deluxe.
Yes.
Um,
Now, real quick, Paulie, Hanjay, how, how was she to work with? She's I've actually read up on her, and she's actually a pretty well known artist.
she is. She's been on. She's actually. she was American. She moved to Canberra in Australia. Yes, I think that is a tiny skeleton parrot somewhere in there. Um, Trying to see. Yep, there it is. Oh, complete with a knife in its beak. Yeah, so she ended up in Canberra. And there were some East Coast furry conventions that she would go to, but only the ones down in Sydney, which I would never go to because
Hmm.
I live on the far side of the country. I could only get to one convention over east. So at that time, there's one in Surfers Paradise, which is way more fun. Plus, you could goof off at, a
Yeah.
holiday beach town. Um, I'm not a big fan of Sydney, but yeah, so she was actually a delight to work with. So I got her to do an initial raft of artwork. There'll be a lot more artwork in the game now that we're going for funding. She does an initial core. We've got to get more, which is why we're
Yeah,
raising
and
funds.
let's real quickly tell our viewers where we're at with this project. That way, people can go ahead and understand when the game is due to be released, etc. The crowdfunding is going to go ahead and end on February 12th, and we are going to be doing a mid-May ship date. Now, the reason why we can do such a fast ship date on this book is because we have all writing is complete, all editing is complete, and we have almost pretty much all the artwork is complete. We have to get a few more pieces to get it into the books to make it extra special the way we want. However, since we're going to be doing our own print and binding, which we do in house, in anticipation of this project, we've also brought in, we have all of our paper and all of our case bound stock. So there's going to be nothing that's going to trip us up. We're not waiting for something to come from customs overseas. We're good to go. So that's how we can guarantee a May delivery time. And for those who support the crowdfunding, and if they want their game a little bit earlier, there's going to be only really one way they're going to be able to do that. And that is if they attend the WizardCon Game Convention in April in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We are going to have individuals who contact us who are going to that convention and say, can I pick up my copy then? Now, real quick, what do you get? You want to talk a little bit about that? We can get into that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. No matter if a individual supports the soft cover release or the hardcover version, they will get a EPUB version and a PDF. The reason why we're giving two digital versions instead of just PDF is because with an EPUB version, it's better viewable on your smartphone, your Android or your Apple iPhone. And then the PDF, of course, is good for things like tablets and computers and things like that. So we're giving two versions digitally, no matter what version that you go after. And then both the soft cover level and the hardcover level, you get a set of 6 limited edition full color art prints, 11 inches by 17, that are suitable for framing. And then the deluxe level, which is the hardcover, you also, along with that, you get a really nice Stars and Sails. It's a very elegant silk bookmark that kind of folds through the book. So a lot of value for the money for what you're doing when you do it. Paul, you look like you're a little warm there.
I am. I turned my fan off because it was making me sound a little bit like this was coming from like the
Yeah.
front cockpit of a B-17. Uh,
Yes.
we're coming up over Frankfurt. Bombay doors are open. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it
So
is.
basically, the price to do this, the support levels for soft cover is $35. Again, soft cover, you'll get a black and white copy. You'll get 6 full color limited edition art prints that are suitable for framing, and also the EPUB and PDF. Or you can go with the hardcover edition, which is $59, and you get not only the 6 limited edition art prints. You get the digital versions, EPUB and PDF, and also you get that silk bookmark, ribbon bookmark through it. So, really, when you take a look at the price for this kick or for this backer kit, it's not anything over and above what you're going to pay for in a store. So it's not like you're paying extra because it's a crowdfunding.
Yeah. The deluxe, I think we're planning on having that only available for the crowdfund. Are we? Is that
Yes, and that's another thing that's very important. Thank you for bringing that up. There is one really important thing to understand. If you're going to support this and you want the hardcover version, the only way it's going to be available is through Backer Kit. That is the only way. So if you grab a hardcover version, you know what? You got something unique on your hands. Also, when people go to the backer kit, they're going to have the option, they can do things called add ons. If they want to purchase another soft cover or another hardcover, they can go ahead and do that. And also, we have handmade 100% cotton full line dice bags with dice that you can also do it. And we have a special. It's called an early bird. For those of you who support the the Kickstarter. For those of you who
yeah?
support this backer kit, within the first 48 hours, you are going to get a free dice bag on us as a thank you for supporting us early on. So, a lot of value for the money. Dice bags run normally $20, so that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah, very cool. So Don is running a convention in April. So obviously the aim is to have these available
Yep.
there at the convention for table sale and to get the black and white version
To get the black and white version, yes.
into stores. I'll be at that
Yes.
convention digitally. For very obvious reasons, my days of traveling to the USA are done. But yeah, I'll be there digitally, and we'll be able to talk about the game and so on as well on there for people who are.
Yep, and to let everybody know about Pauli being at WizardCon, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having it's going to be kind of like a really cool one-on-one chance for you to talk to Pauli direct. We are going to have a room set up that's going to have seating for about 24 people, and it's going to be where you can sit there on video with Pauli with a microphone, and you can answer questions about the game, about Pauli's gaming history, about Pauli's social activism, whatever that Pauli and y'all want to talk about. It's going to be kind of like an open mic night. And then Pauli will be also in the main gaming room. We're going to be sitting there having Pauli say hello to everybody, um, introduce Stars and Sales. So it's going to be really, really cool overall.
This is kind of an interesting family project too. I am literally a descendant of Captain Kidd, so we have a long family history of piracy, essentially.
Paulie, no offense intended, but you're from Australia. I think everybody's descendant of Captain Kidd from Australia.
Oh, we're all thieves. Actually, that was the fun thing when I was in the UK, living there, doing the Terry Pratchett thing. You'd walk into stores, and I mean, I haven't quite got the typical Australian accent, but you play it up more when you get overseas because you don't want anyone to think you're British. But people would people would sort of look at you a bit suspiciously in stores, and you'd find them watching you, and you finally realize that they do sort of have this ongoing idea that once upon a time, they shipped all their criminals off to an island where they've interbred horrifically for a couple of 100 years and are now bursting off the shores to like continue their rampage of crime. So you were watched a bit as if you're either going to start a fight, set fire to something, or just steal all the stock. You know?
And another important thing, you're mentioning Australia. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know, Paulie is located in Australia. I am located in the United States. All books will be shipping, and all of things like the dice bags and such, which these are the dice bags that are going to be done with a set of dice. Um, but basically, everything ships from the United States, and we ship to just about every single country. The only countries we cannot legally ship to are countries like Iran, North Korea, that type of thing. But we ship to the EU, we ship to Australia, Japan, China, Vietnam, France, England. I
We
mean,
should send one
Canada.
to North Korea just to annoy them, really.
Yeah, true. But the thing is we ship internationally, and what will happen is BackerKit will handle all of that as you're going through your backing and everything. So Worldwide shipping, not a problem at all. All shipping will be done with tracking and insurance automatically on us. So, you know, I think it's a great project. Like I said, it should be live tonight. It should be live right now. For those of you who go to the page and it's not live yet, it might be Backer Kit. We had again some communication with them right before we went live, and we had to do a few little bits and pieces like add some social media links. Go figure. So we got that done. Now, Paulie, real quick about the game. Let me ask you a question here. Um, for those who are sitting here looking at Stars and Sales and going, why should I back this? It's just another role playing game. It's not. Tell people what makes Stars and Sales different than something like Dungeon and Dragons or those who like Gamma World or and such. A little bit.
Yeah. So the game design has been kept um, very clear and very simple. It doesn't use these kind of artificialities like levels and classes and so on. So it's very much seated in your traditional swashbucklers. If you've watched a pirate movie or you've watched Master and Commander or anything like that, you can leap in and play this. It differs from some things like, say, Dungeons and Dragons, in that Dungeons and Dragons does tend to channel you very specifically into one style of play, and it actually limits your options pretty severely. It says you must be from a set sections of races. You can only have a set number of career paths that you can take. Oddly limiting. Whereas the core theme of anything that's sort of swashbuckling or piratey is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so a big part of the game is to make sure you're free. What do you want to be? What adventure do you want to have?
Mm-hmm.
The stars are yours. Take them, son. Uh,
Yep.
so, so that's why the game was done without these kind of constraints. You can make this the sort of if you want to be a strange, interesting alien species, you can be it. It's what's in your head, what you would like to be. What would your character like to do? Do you want to be a scientist exploring strange worlds? Do you want to be a pirate? Do you want to be a pilot? Do you want to be a stalwart naval officer? Would you like to be some sort of strange Han Solo-esque type hotshot pilot that's rather dodgy? You can make it rather than having to be spoon fed it by a narrow series of options. So, um, gameplay, it's got its roots in what we call OSR, old school rules. So the
Mm-hmm.
old school D&D players can rejoice, and the new school D&D players can actually, be happy because it's not an entirely alien language.
Yeah.
The core mechanic uses a D20, not quite in the Dungeons and Dragons way. You're basically to use a skill, you are rolling on a d20.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 11 or higher is a success, so that's 50-50 chance. Um, you can have different levels of skill, which give you bonuses to the dice roll. Your characteristics can also give you bonuses or negatives to the dice roll,
Negatives. Yeah.
depending on whatever you are. Um, I have tried to keep the mechanics simple. Very old school games had a habit of giving you masses of pluses and minuses
Mm-hmm.
to count up. Um, so I did take the fashionable mechanic of advantage and disadvantage, where you just roll twice if you're doing something at some sort of massive advantage, like stabbing someone from behind, or you've
Mm-hmm.
got amazingly useful equipment. You roll twice and take the best results. And likewise at disadvantage, I'm firing at a target, but it's very fast moving and dodging around like crazy. Roll
Now,
twice and take the worst. Um,
I have a quick question for you. Now, there is flexibility in the game, though. It is actually encouraged for GMs to change or modify the rules to suit their players' needs and wants. Correct? Or
yeah.
okay.
So one of the things it absolutely starts with is make the game your own. Um,
Yes.
so That's why there's a series of different kind of. So here's our basic setting and our basic game. Here are all the different types of campaigns that you could run within this kind of
Mhm.
setting. Here are all the sorts of themes and the sorts of characters that
Oh,
you can have in the setting.
and one very, very important thing that everybody here must understand about this game. What you're getting is you're getting a core rule book, and that is everything you need to play the game. There's no other books you have to have. This is the entire core game. So you have everything you need between those covers. So if you support this crowdfunding campaign with Backer Kit for Paulie and us, you get everything you need to play the game. So there won't be a gotcha moment later on where you got to buy this book because you just have to have it. Nope. Everything is under one book, everything you need.
Yep, here's the book of species. Oh, you can't play without that. Here's the
That's
book
right.
of ships. You can't play with it. No,
Yeah.
I hate that.
Nope. All of that. That's
That
all
is
in one book now.
actually the old school in me. Usually always meant I can pick up the game and play it, as opposed to I can pick up
Yeah.
the game and get a second job to somehow pay for all the
Well,
supplements
that's the
for
thing.
it.
That's what modern way that gaming, and this is something Wizard Tower Games is trying to stay away from, is, and I think that's, like what Wizards of the Coast has done is, instead of putting everything in a 300-page book, what they do is they put out a series of 120-page books, but it's the same price as if they would have put out a 300-page book, and they're basically micro piecemealing you to death. Whereas with Stars and Sails,
Yeah,
here's your game, have fun.
as someone that runs a reviewing channel, I find it very annoying. For one thing, I can't afford to buy these things to review. But say someone was saying, "Oh, why don't you review, say, the new Modophius Star Trek?" It's like, because it's about $600 or $700.
Hmm.
Because I need to buy a core book, but then for each branch of service, I need to buy a book, and then I need to buy a book all about starships, and then I need to buy some campaign books. So it's like
Hmm.
suddenly you've gone from buying a role playing game at, particularly in Australia, this might be an
Yeah,
$80 to $120 book, but now I've got to buy 8 of them. It's like,
yeah,
so you're kind of you're sucked in buying the supporting material,
yeah. So,
and
and that's what you've done is you've basically said enough of that nonsense. You put everything, and this is not me. This was you. This is your original content of your game. That you wanted everything within one book, which
yeah.
is says a lot about you and what you feel about your gamers, which is a good thing.
Yeah, there's a list of, in the back of the rules, there are a list of different sort of appendices, and these include things to help you run a game. So there's a whole list, for instance, of patrons that you can get. These are
Hmm.
people that will kick off an adventure, and they come to you with a job, they come to you with a tale of woe. It's something to get you involved in. But
Yeah.
each of these has a little chart, and this is what the adventure actually is. Maybe they were telling you the truth, or maybe there's something hidden, or a hidden foe, or an opponent, or maybe
Hmm.
what they're looking for isn't what they think it is. Or so there's a chart that umpires can roll on to see where is this actually leading us. So there's
Yeah.
a whole list of these, so you can kickstart adventures off. There's a whole appendix on creatures of known space, because of course a big part of this thing is making your own creatures, and
Hmm.
there are rules in there, but here are things that you can populate your space with that are everywhere, and these are everything from uh, creatures that cruise through space in the Ethereum to horrendous
Yeah.
things that you get in your ships, and very
So
yeah, sorry.
no, no, no. I mean, that's exactly kind of what I want to touch on next. Is you just mentioned it, and that is in this game you can actually create your own type of monsters. Can you talk a little bit about the process, how that is, and what makes that unique and everything?
Well, in the star system generation system, essentially what you can do there is make a little ecology. And it's very simple, but you can roll for dominant life forms, and you can
Hmm.
roll to see what general form it is in. If
Hmm.
they're intelligent, um, you have these little charts to figure out what are their motivations. Um, what are their quirks? What is their culture? Which lets you know how they're going to interact with players. Are they going to be dangerous? Are
Yeah.
they going to be taboos you might trigger? Do these things have circumstances in which they might suddenly have a violent frenzy they go into around mating periods? There's a whole
Hmm.
way of making these unpredictable environments and fleshing those out. But obviously, the sky's the limit on fleshing out a completely alien world. I mean, I can't put guides in there for every plant and every tree or every weird
Hmm.
fungus or giant crystal, but I can point you towards environments that have funguses and crystals and strange silicon life and so forth. The main thing I was generating was intelligent creatures and how they're going to interact with you, because one of the little conceits of the game is it's a little bit like early science fiction in that there's a lot of life out there in the universe,
Hmm.
as
Yeah.
opposed to how it actually looks like. No, it's a desert. But where would you be if you didn't land on a place? And in fact, I think one of the first things in the rules is like it breaks down some of the science of it. And one of them is like, "Is there air? Don't open that.
Yeah.
Is there air?" It's like, "Yeah, there's
Yeah.
air. Don't worry about
Yeah.
that."
Yeah.
Um,
I think just the idea of that, Scott, or excuse me, Thyatus, thanks for tuning in. Thyatus says, I'm a sucker for monster generator rules. And, and, and I think that kind of keys into something with a lot of people, and that is the flexibility to be able to make it your own, to be able to take something and instead of going, I'm stuck with this, you can get creative. Reading your rules and reading the game itself when I was going through it, you really do not only just say you can do this, you really bring the person learning how to do it into it, and you really show them how to do it in a way that, for lack of a better word, for me was very comfortable reading it. I understood it very quickly. You can parse out rules very easily, Paulie, and you do that in this game. Um,
oh,
so it's a very easy to understand game, but don't misunderstand that with being easy to understand with simple. It's it's an easy to understand game, but I kind of going to use the analogy easy to learn, difficult to master because there's just so much richness in the game and such.
I put a couple of in the kind of creatures of known space. I put in some foes. So if you wanted a rather nasty autocratic kind of empire to stand in as sort of a national kind of competitor for wherever the players come from, they're there. If you
Hmm.
wanted an inimicable sort of alien race, if you wanted undead space pirates, these kinds of things are in there. Um,
Yes.
and as well as some beneficial things that you can ride, things that you can have as pets.
Hmm.
There are rules in there, by the way, for the sort of pets that you can take on board ship. You can randomize them. They've all got sort of
Hmm.
quirks and things. Um, what a movie that I adore is actually Yellowbeard. Um, one of
Oh,
the one of the
yes.
finest pirate movies ever made. Come
Yes.
party, lad, do you some good, get some mindless violence into your system.
Yes.
But I like when someone's trying to get a stuffed crocodile on board the ship.
Hmm.
Marty Feldman, the officer, said, "What's that?" Just, "A crocodile, sir." Says, "What are you
Yeah.
bringing that on board for?" Says, "Oh, it is traditional. We are allowed pets on board." Says, "Yes, one pet per sailor, parrots preferred." Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a group of us just thought we'd club together and get this.
Hmm.
I like that idea. All right, all right. We're shipping a monster on board, everyone.
But yeah, but that yeah, and but that's the whole thing that's cool about the game is just it's the flexibility of it, and again, so many little unique, and I'm gonna use the word quirks. There's so many quirky, unique things about the game that are so cool. Again, for those who are tuning in a little bit late, is you're dealing with a game that does not have classes in it. Instead, it relies, like we were talking about, heavily on quirks and such. You have the ability to do ship to ship combat. You can design your own ships. You can sit there and create your own species. Um, and Dan Fro, sorry if I'm butchering names here. Dan Froelich said Yellowbeard.
Yep.
So,
Always
you
more
know,
dangerous when they're dead. Yeah.
yes. So, you know, we've kind of gone through a little bit about all of this with kind of like how the game is and such. You know, with this crowdfunding that we're doing right here, we're going to be doing a follow up game. Um, just kind of, you want to just briefly talk about it? That has nothing to do with, it's not a game you got to buy to play with this game, but we're going to be doing another game. Correct?
Future plans, yes.
Yes.
So the follow up, not follow up to this. The next
Not
one that we're
follow up to
bringing
this.
out.
Yes.
Once this campaign is over, we're going to do another one for a different game, and that will be Snarkberry's Academy for the Magically Inclined, and
Absolutely.
that is a Dungeons and Dragons based
Yep.
setting, which allows you to play the magical school for children. Now, this is
But
actually a very old genre. Um,
hold on, real quick. Let's get something clear right off the bat.
mm,
This is not a Harry Potter knockoff, by the way, folks. I went stem to stern on this. This is so original. The only similarities between Pauli's book or role playing game and the Harry Potter series is school for magically inclined kids. Other than that, it's going off the rails in such a cool way. Go ahead. Sorry, I had
oh,
to let people clarify.
a big part of the idea is to take the genre back from the Evil Witch. Um, it is an old genre, and you've got this unspeakable hate monger claiming that she invented everything from gold pieces to chocolate frogs, and it's like, no. Um, it's the Trump thing. Just because you repeat a lie doesn't make it actually true. So yeah, it's got a lot of its roots in things like the Worst Witch and so on. But it's a frolicsome
Mhm.
um, Dungeons and Dragons style thing where the idea is you're taking good old fashioned magic users, or wizards for those of us who are younger, and it's them in their school learning these skills. So it's the
Yes.
whole background. Now you can either use this as a background for generating characters before you go off on regular adventures, but it is an entire universe in itself. You can play
Yeah.
children and you can have entire adventures. There's a no-kill combat system that goes with it,
Explain that.
so that you're having kids adventures.
Yeah.
No one's head gets ripped off, no one gets stabbed and dies, because that's not what a kid's adventure is about.
Hmm.
And we want you to be able to run this thing for kids. So like kids adventures, what we have is there are often situations where your resolve is being worn down. It's
Hmm.
worn down by embarrassments, and well, it can be worn down by bullying. It can be worn down by being terrified of things. But
Yeah.
many adventures go until someone just flees the area. Someone just goes. Someone gives up. An Enid Blyton famous five. Yes, you might get locked up by the evil people,
Hmm.
um, in which case you get a chance to escape. Um, but you're never just fed to the anaconda and they walk off. So um it is a game designed for adults, but also something you can run for children,
But
because
that's
most
that's
D&D gaming runs off murder. It runs off killing things. This does not.
and
It
that's
runs
a
off
very
challenge.
important distinction to have here is, as somebody, I've been playing D&D now. Good Lord, I've been playing D&D for 47 years. Holy cow.
Mumble, yes.
Yeah, 47 years. But the funny thing is, as an adult D&D player who's used to that, you know, classic D&D, death is the ultimate, arbiter here. You automatically think no kill system of kids. No, it's actually really appealing when you get into it, and it's a really interesting system. So for those who are looking at thinking about that, going, well, this is kind of like, no, it's actually a really cool system. Um, and K.E. Robbins says something like Ursula's Wizard of Earthsea.
Yeah, it takes some of its inspiration from that. It's very whimsical. It has masses of different races and things that you can be, because the idea is
Hmm.
many different people from many different worlds come to this school.
Yeah.
Uh, it's you develop your character's magical talents and skills,
Yep.
and there's adventures done for this. There's there's an entire little world attached to this. There's yeah, it's actually a wonderful piece of work. Familiars are a huge part of it,
Yes.
and you can your familiars are very important, and they do a lot of things for you. You do a lot of things for them, but you can actually essentially run the familiars as characters of their own. There are adventures for familiars. They can go places where
Yes.
people can't, so they have their own hijinks. They're not just like they're not just a prop scribbled on the bottom of a character sheet. They're a
Yeah.
additional character that you run that has its own powers and abilities and does things. So it brings in that kind of, again, it's almost that Pokemonish kind of thing where there are all these spectacular creatures you can have as your companion, and it's part of the fun. And going out to find the cool areas where you can get the really cool familiars from is a great way of coaxing people into, sneaking out of school bounds and going somewhere really stupid.
And that's a
you
really
know?
cool thing because there is a school, and you normally you think school, okay, it's the school is just kind of like where it takes place. This school is so integral part of the story also aspect of it. There's a school map, and in this game there'll be a very rich full color map that's associated with it, that people can go ahead and have for the game also. So um, but you know, this is just like another awesome product that you're putting out, because your ability, and this is where we talked about earlier, this with these two games you are really showing that lineage that you have in story weaving and writing and creating, um, because really storytelling is very integral to these two games.
Yeah. So there's other ones that I want to go on and do with Don and Wizard Towers afterwards.
Mhm.
So we're discussing many other
Many
interesting
other, yeah.
games, and so hopefully this will be fruitful and amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, each of them is like a storytelling, rich environment kind of game
Yes.
that is trying to be something different. It's not the also ran that you get. Like none of these are just another D&D setting. This is the
Yeah.
world of Trichamore. What's that? Well, it's like ancient Greece, but they've got plate armor because oh, piss off.
Yeah.
I see so many of these come out, but it's
Yeah.
like there's an air of sameness about them. So the
Yeah.
idea is to always do that different thing, and
Yeah.
that always make sure that the story is there. The thing that I always get with settings is, but what do my player characters do?
Mhm.
Great setting. Where's the minuate that's going to be what these guys are going to do in the
Yeah.
world? And it's got to have lots of leads that can reach out and pull people into
Yeah.
adventures. One of the
Yeah.
reasons I put things like the patrons and so on in the back of Stars and Sails is because one of the things that you find in like a lot of classic swashbucklers is someone is drawn into something that was bigger than they thought it would be. Someone's
Mhm.
pulled into an adventure. That simple job always becomes something big. Star Wars original A New Hope is basically a swashbuckler, complete
Yeah.
with swords. And
Yep.
it's exactly that. We just got to deliver a message. That's all. This princess wants a message delivered. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
mail run. How
Yeah.
could that possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Dan Froelich says it sounds great for new players. Is he's asked a question? He says, "Is it easy to teach people who've never played an RPG before?"
Yes, yeah, it's designed for that. So that was why so for Stars and Sails, the core mechanic was the D20 roll high.
Hmm.
Um, you have a 11 or higher is a success for a skill in which you are competent, say.
Hmm.
Um, and your character is listed for things that they have at higher levels. You can be like competent in a skill. You can be highly skilled. You can be an expert. You can be a grandmaster. That gets you a bonus on the dice. And there is that advantage disadvantage mechanic where if you're doing something at a disadvantage, roll twice and take the
Hmm.
worst. If you're doing something at an advantage for some reason, twice and take
Yeah.
the best, rather than giving someone sheets of pluses and minuses. Well,
Yeah.
you're going uphill in a swamp and it's nighttime, but there's two moons out, but one of them is slightly no one
Hmm.
needs that. That's what always slowed down things, and that
Yeah.
was kind of part of the 1970s and 60s wargaming roots of role-playing games. That's what war games rules look like then.
Yeah.
But over 40, 50 odd years of game design experience, there are some things that can annoy me about some modern design aesthetic.
Yeah.
Some of it tries to be clever for the sake of being clever and loses clarity. But
Hmm.
the things that are most admirable, I find, in modern game design aesthetic is maintaining one game mechanic that runs through the whole
Yeah.
rules so that it can be taught very, very quickly, and to have that mechanic something that can be taught easily,
Yeah.
because you want people to be playing the game, not gaming the system.
Yes. And you achieved that with Stars and Sales. You definitely did. So, but Stars and Sales. We've hit 1 hour. We wanted to keep this right about 1 hour. I think we've really given people an idea of what the game is, what they can expect. It is on again BackerKit. So if you go to backerkit.com, you can follow the link down below. I'm going to put a link in the description. We're going to be putting it on both of our respective social media pages, direct links to it. Or if you just simply go to BackerKit and search for Stars and Sales, it'll pop right up. And again, they're supposed to have it live right now. It looks live on my panel, but they again wanted to add some bits and pieces to it, such as social media links. Go figure, like I said, but they're in, so it will be going anytime. I think it's live actually. But Dan says, thank you very much, fabulous answer. And In Bay
Mine
State
too.
says, yep, advantage and disadvantage is one of my favorite rules. So yeah, so support us in this. Again, we're ready to go on this. The proverbial, you know, swashbuckling sword is half pulled out of the scabbard right now, ready to be yanked out at a moment's notice. So
Yep,
um,
let's go. Someone's got to feed the elephant, you know.
exactly. So Pauli, real quick, besides a couple of your projects we're going to be putting out, we're going to be publishing a new book for you also coming out, which is kind of like a little bit of a biography of yours and your trip to India that you just got done going through.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have
Just
it.
quickly, so Don is opening up his book publishing again. Lord
We're
bless him.
doing our
And
publishing arm for books, yes.
so I've actually just done a book. It's called Journeys, which is about my recent trip to India. But because I had started HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy,
Hmm.
just as I set out, um,
Dan,
it's
real quick,
very
thank
much a
you. Yep,
yeah.
go
Thanks.
ahead.
It's very much a story of multiple journeys taking place at one time. In many ways, it's a bit of a heartrending book because it covers my transition journey. It
Hmm.
roams between past and present as I
Yep.
tell stories which give you more background to the journey. The journey itself is actually at some points it's actually quite horrifying,
Hmm.
because shite happened.
Yep.
Um, I've actually been able to make at least two editors cry with the book opening, so score. Um, but it will also stand as a really, really good travel log. We've got
Hmm.
lots of fabulous photographs and so on, which don't just show tourist shots. They kind of show the bones and guts of
The
wandering through these
real,
places.
the real
What
India.
is it? What does that
Yeah.
street look like? What are the people I'm meeting on the streets? These sorts of things. So it's a really interesting snapshot of India and advice for the traveler as well, particularly the trans traveler. There are no
Hmm.
transgender travel books out there.
Hmm.
Um, and
And
that's one of the
and
things I do. I pioneer
yes,
routes for trans
yeah, and
people.
you because just in 2024 alone, and I'm just going off what I know of. You've been to India, you've been to Vietnam, correct? Or
I
was
haven't
it
been to Vietnam yet. I've been
what
to
was it?
Thailand,
Thailand. Sorry,
Laos,
Laos. Yep.
Cambodia, and Indonesia over the last
Yep.
year.
Now,
and basically trying to pioneer routes to let trans people know where they can safely travel.
yeah, and this book that
Which is
we're going
why
to be,
India was pretty problematic.
oh yeah, heavy Muslim country and such, I can imagine. But this book also, for just for information for everybody, this is going to be a 8-inch by 10-inch large book, full color, because the imagery that Pauli took is absolutely gorgeous. And it just, I think that we just got to discussing right before we went live. Um, this is going to be published by Wizard Tower Publishing. It is going to be our book publishing arm, and Wizard Tower Games is our game publishing arm. So, you know, nice, good. It's going to be a heavyweight, good quality book. Something that is, I think, going to be a really interesting book. And whether you want to understand what it's like for somebody who is transgender, or if you are just interested in traveling in India in general, that's the added bonus to it, and vice versa. Um, you've got a hell of a story, Pauli, and you've got a hell of a story. Just not only personally, but in just the game design field, the projects you've worked on, and you tie that in with your personal journey and such. I just think it's going to be a really cool thing. Um,
Yeah,
so,
I think it's a good one. I think it's one that
yep.
had to be done. So
Yep, and Dan Frolich did verify we are live. So, you know,
excellent.
so
Yeah,
every
Backer Kit has been a little bit quirky to work with.
they're kind of different. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think I like them better than Kickstarter because they kind of make it where you can't make mistakes because they check you to make sure they want you to be successful. They're just not going, here, we want our percentage. Thank you very much. Oh, you failed. Oh, who gives a crap? Go ahead, try it again next time. They don't do that. What they want is they want you to succeed. They want you to be a success. So they kind of act more like they're more like a consultant, but they don't let you go live until they feel you're ready. So
Yeah, I found them to be pretty steady when I've backed Backer Kits. It's been
yeah,
a it's always been good results. So
yep. So our backer kit is live tonight, and it ends on February 12th at 12 noon, 21 days. And our goal is $5,000. And again, just to do a recap before we go offline here, again, first of all, thank you everybody for tuning into Pauli's Live and Wizard Tower Games Live tonight. Thank you for all the questions. And again, you can head over to BackerKit. You can search for Stars and Sales, or you can click the link that'll be in the video descriptions and all over our social media when we're done here. We'll be sure to be doing that. But the $5,000 goal basically will be covering what we perceive as the amount of people that we need in order to fund it who will be purchasing books. We have to get our editor paid. We have to pay for artwork and all of that. And that is what this is designed to do. If you want a hardcover book, the only way you're getting a full color hardcover book is through BackerKit. So once BackerKit and once we have fulfilled this crowdfunder, you're not going to get a hardcover book unless it's on a secondary market, eBay or someplace like that, or RPG market or something like that. So now's the time to go ahead and do it. And books ship in May. We are all set. We're ready to go.
yay!
So Pauli, thank you very much for coming on here and talking about your game. Is there
Great
anything
seeing
else?
you, and yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say to
Yeah.
anybody before we get off here?
No, look, I just hope everyone enjoys the game. It was made with much love and much fun,
Yeah.
and I hope that shines through as you read it. Um,
Well, one of the things that I am going to do at WizardCon is I'm going to run a game. I'm going to run personally a game of Stars and Sails as just kind of like a, hey folks, here we go. And I'm going to be coordinating. I got to get a hold of them, but I'm going to see if I can get Eric Tenkar or maybe Tom Veralt to maybe do a little video taping of it while we're doing it, maybe do a live or something and show more of a broad audience what the game is like. So, but again, everybody, thank you for tuning in to tonight's live. Pauli Kidd down below. I am Don, and again, head over to our backer kit, support us, get yourself a hardcover book. If you don't want the hardcover, not a problem. If you want to add a couple of books for friends and family, like if you support it at the hardcover level, you can do that, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to be able to, Mr. Snoots, you're going to be able to also, if you want to add a couple of soft covers, you can do an add-on and add books and everything. So again, N-Based, Obsidian Risk, thank you for tuning in. Dan Froelich, St. Cuthbert, Scott Mulder, everybody, again, thank you very much. I am Don. Pauli's down below me. And thank you again. We'll talk to everybody later. And here's to what's going to be, I believe, a very successful backer kit campaign.
Okay.
Pauli,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, everybody.